are some love songs that doesn't have to be just between the love just between a man and a woman. It's love in general. As you can see through the video, they gave different illustrations. There was like a mother and her son, um, friends. Love is love beyond the love between a man and a woman that are coupled up in a relationship, right? We also need the love of our friends, the love of our family, the love of our community. I know, right? I'm so cheesy, right? That's okay. I'll be cheesy. So how'd you guys do with your project, your writing? I hope we are still writing. As I stated in the end of yesterday's video, there is no way you could possibly be done with your assignment. If you have completed the two lists, your relationship with mom, your relationship with dad, if you have completed that and moved on to your relationship with your siblings, right? Depending on how many siblings you have, you may be writing for some time. For those only children, you may have just one parent, right? I'm sorry, not one parent, but one sibling. No one can have one parent, right? You may just have one one sibling. So your writing may not be as long as others if they have like more than one sibling, right? And for those, if that is the case, you then are going to move from writing about your relationship with your siblings to your relationships with your cousins, right? We said cousins, right? Because it goes mom, dad, siblings, and then outside the home would be the cousins, right? And again, if you have a small family, it may not take you as long as others. You may not have as much writing to do as other people that come from the bigger families. And for those who are done with their writing surrounding the cousins, we are going to, I think I said this earlier, we're going to move on to the kids in the neighborhood. Your immediate neighborhood. What was your relationship like in your immediate neighborhood when you would go outside to play with the other kids in the neighborhood? Like, all this stuff is very important, and it is going to lead somewhere. I promise you guys that. I know it seems like a lot of work, but again, like I said, even for people who are past those years, now in their adult years, if you do have a mental health condition, right? We need to get in touch with the roots of the mental health condition way back where it first started, okay? So that's the purpose of doing all this writing. We're trying to connect the dots, right? Maybe some people have a dual diagnosis, as I stated earlier, right? I'm just trying to separate my hair, guys, because my hair, as you can see, it's like really curly, and I want the curls separated. But anyway, so as I stated, some of us have dual diagnoses, right? And we have the mental health disease aspect, and we have the addiction to street drug aspect, right? Again, if this is the case for you, there is a program you can go to address the addiction to street drugs aspect. You're going to have to go through that program and address the disease of addiction before we can move you along to mental health awareness, okay? Because as I stated, if you are having symptoms, if you are having some unbalanced emotions, if you are having some changes in sleeping pattern, eating pattern, like a lot of that stuff can stem from your active addiction. So we need to get those people into those programs where they can address the disease of addiction aspect, okay? This is simply for addressing the mental health disease aspect, okay? You guys know I lost my chain of thought where I was going with that. Okay. Again, for people who, like myself, had the disease of addiction aspect, I told you guys, March 11th, 2007, I have 18 years clean, right? In that program, they're going to have you do a lot of extensive work if you do that program right. They have tools, they have books, they have people pairing up in sponsorship to do the work similar to what we're doing here. So a lot of us are probably further along in our journey as far as moving from mental health awareness to mental health wellness, because if, like myself, you guys were serious about the disease of addiction and recovering from that stuff, I'm assuming you did the work. I'm assuming you did all 12 steps with a sponsor. Some of us have done the steps more than once. And you may still be in that phase, and that's okay. Like I said, anyone is welcomed to participate on my YouTube channel addressing mental health awareness, mental health wellness tied to education. Whether you're in active addiction or not, it's just that you're not going to get much from the mental health awareness, mental health wellness tied to education piece until you have completed your program and have addressed the disease of addiction, okay? Because again, like I said, a lot of the symptoms that you may be experiencing could be coming from that aspect. They have their own program that you can go to get the help you need. I didn't put my phone on silent, guys. And then once you've completed that program, you are free to come back if you are still having signs and symptoms that could be related to a mental health disease. So, for the ones who do not have the aspect of the disease of addiction, you are simply here to now address and educate yourself and get guidance and support and tips in regards to the mental health disease aspect. For me, it's a lifetime journey, right? We don't get better overnight. Like I said, I've had to do a lot of work on myself, right? I'm talking extensive work, guys. And even though I have the aspect of the other program and the benefits that were provided to me from that other program as far as recovering from the disease of addiction, even though I have done the 12 steps in that program more than once, I still had to do a lot more writing. A lot more. I'm in my 50s. It's been a long journey. Even though I've been in recovery addressing my street addiction to street drug addiction, right? Even though I have 18 years in that aspect, right? It doesn't stop there. Even with your mental health disease, the thing that these two things have in common, right, is that it is a never-ending journey. You will never arrive we will never be better. We have to continue to learn and work in those areas to stay well. Okay, we want to stay in that wellness stage. We have to maintain both the recovery aspect, and we want to maintain the mental health disease aspect as well, because if I don't take my meds, if I don't stay on treatment, um, these diseases do not go away. They don't go away. It's a new lifestyle. And again, with the aspect of the drug addiction piece, right? I told you guys, if you are on mental health meds, the two do not mix, you will die. You will die. So we first have to get the people who have the disease of addiction aspect into those programs and on their way to recovery. And then those people are free to either stay in touch with us while they're going through that process, or they can choose to not be here and just address the disease of addiction aspect. And then if they decide to join us again later, they have the option to do so. Again, even though I am in recovery, this is not about recovery to street drugs, because there is a program for that. Again, my focus here is on mental health awareness, mental health wellness tied to education. For those people with the drug addiction aspect, you may find that after you've gone through recovery, you've had some clean time, you may still have some signs and symptoms, as far as the unbalanced emotions, as far as the racing thoughts, as far as, any shortness of breath from anxiety, panic attacks. There's just so much tied to the mental health disease aspect. So once you've gone through that program, and if you still find yourself having some signs and some symptoms that something could be wrong, we could help you here with that piece of it, okay? So again, you guys, back to what I was saying, right? We're writing about those first relationships, mom and dad. We're going to move on to those next relationships, siblings. We're going to move on to the cousins. We're going to move on to the kids in your immediate neighborhood, the ones that you go outside after school to play with in your neighborhoods, right? And then from there, we're going to move on to the children at school. I know it's a long process. There is no race. You want to be, what's the word I want to use? You want to be as accurate as you can. Like, really be honest with yourself. Write down as much as you can, every memory that you may have, good or bad. And I'm going to tell you the purpose of that, right? So, our very first relationships, as I stated, with the parents, right? That's where we get our first exposure to love, familiarity, education surrounding relationships, whether they were healthy, whether they were not healthy, whether they caused you harm. Did you feel that you got what you needed from your parents? As far as parents, they're supposed to, we're going to say they're supposed to be those safety nets, right? They're supposed to offer you a certain level of protection. They're supposed to offer you a certain level of love, where education should have been a piece of that. Now, like I told you, my mom and dad never finished high school, and they never went past the grade level that they dropped out of, right? So even though they continued to grow and mature into adults, And again, I'm gonna be very careful when I say this, because this is not to injure my mom and dad. Now, I'm not saying that they were not smart and they didn't know some things, right? I'm talking educational wise, reading, writing, math. Um, my mom has never been able to read, guys. She's never been able to read. Um, I told you with my sister, right? She had trouble with math. I'm talking basic math. I'm just going to throw a number out there, okay? I'm talking 6 plus 10. Never mind when you got to division, timetables. My sister struggled in that area, and she also never finished high school. I'm not sure if she even made it as far as high school, just because, again, my mom's children got taken from her. We were separated. My brothers went to their dads. I went into the state, custody of the state. At that time, when they came in to remove my mother's children from the home, my sister had ran away. So she was not in the home when they came and removed my mother's children from the home. So I got put into protective custody. Like I said, my brothers both went with their dads, and my sister was just out there. So in the time that I was separated from my sister, I don't really know what happened in her life during that time. But I can almost guarantee you, if she ran away from home, she was not going to school. And that's why I stress education of importance, right? Because it's going to make that much more of a difference in your life. So that's what I mean by those first relationships with mom and dad. Like, what did they teach you, if anything at all? Did they teach you healthy things? Was there some teachings of negative things? Like I said, both my parents were in active addiction, so they really wasn't really thinking, and they really wasn't really present. You know what I mean? So with those first relationships, right, we should have learned some things. We should have felt loved. We should have felt appreciated. We should have felt needed. There was a certain worth about ourselves that we should have gotten from mom and dad, those first relationships, right? And then we move on down to the siblings, because whatever you got from mom and dad, all the siblings should have gotten, right? Again, whether it was good information, whether it was bad information. As I stated, me and my siblings were very violent to each other. We were very violent to each other. Mom didn't teach the siblings how to stick together, how to love one another, how to be there for one another, how to protect one another. I mean, there was a certain aspect where there was some things we just knew, you know. My sister fought for me many times. She was not going to stand there and let somebody jump on me. There were times I had to fight for her. The brothers were kind of like off doing their own thing. As I stated, my first brother is 2 years underneath me, and my second brother is 3 years underneath me. So there was a little gap between the boys and the girls, where the girls were here, the boys were there. And they were babies. So whatever I went through, it's not like they could help me much, right? They were good at jumping me, though. That's another story. I think I went over that with you guys before. So, yeah, we want to talk about the siblings. Like, what was your relationship with? Did you guys get that information instilled in you, where you were told to, like, if one fight, we all fight? You know, to protect each other, to love and respect, right? Love and respect one another. If you grew up in an unhealthy environment, right, I'm sure all the siblings learned some things. Like I said, there was a time when my mom was dating a young man. who was driving around in stolen cars and showing my brother how to pop locks and the tools needed to start a stolen car. So that was the boys aspect of it. For my sister and I, being that we was girls, it was a different aspect. It was very different. I'm pausing because I'm trying to find the right words where I can say it to you guys without breaking any of YouTube's community guidelines, okay? If you guys read my book, God's Gift to You, book 1, you will know exactly what I mean when I say it was different for the girls. There was negative stuff with the girls. It was just a little different from the boys. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So then, okay, once we complete all we need to do with the siblings, right? Then we're going to move on to the neighborhood children, okay? Because based on how your relationships were with your parents, with your siblings inside the home, what you were taught, what was instilled with you, how did you feel about yourself? You know, if you don't have that information, right, and then you go outside of your home to mix and mingle with the neighborhood kids, right? I think we talked about this, and there's been a lot of talk about this on social media about being careful of the children that you allow your children to be around, because some children had more exposure to some harmful things than other children, right? And you think that your kid is safe because they're surrounded by other children their age, right? That is not always the case. So this is why I want you guys to then move down to your relationships with the other children in your neighborhood, your immediate neighborhood. Like, what were your relationships like? Were you able to make friends? Were you not able to make friends? When you did make a friend, was it a healthy relationship? Did you feel safe? Did they expose you to some things that you didn't understand? Yeah. And that's just the neighborhood kids. We didn't get to elementary school and grade school, right? What were your relationships like with the children at school and elementary school and middle school, right? If you didn't have that foundation from the beginning, right? From mom and dad, moving down to the siblings, moving down to the cousins, spreading out into your immediate neighborhood with the children in your neighborhood. Now you got to take everything you learned and go out to school. Okay? So the kids in your neighborhood are just from your neighborhood. When you go to school, right? Now you're meeting kids from other neighborhoods. Yes. Sometimes it could start there at school, right? Because for some families, right, if they don't have unhealthy family members in their immediate family, right? If they don't have the aspect of a drug addiction or a mental health disease, right? When your children went to school with other kids, right, from other neighborhoods, what did those other kids teach your children? And that's exactly where we were going today, okay? I am on script. I just had to bring you guys from yesterday into today, right? And show you where we're going with all this, okay? And that's exactly how my script starts off. Did you see something? We're talking in elementary school, grade school, first grade, second grade, third grade, right? Did you see something that you never seen before? Did you go along with something you didn't quite understand, but you went along with it paralyzed with fear and confusion, or maybe because in that moment you didn't know what else to do. Maybe you didn't know it was something wrong, and you didn't know it was something causing harm to you because you were among other children your age and couldn't conceive that some children hurt other children, right? Maybe you were backed into a corner because you felt like you were alone and there could have been a group of children like-minded surrounding you and you felt unsafe. Just know that when a person feels unsafe, right? For some of us, not all of us, because some of us, we work good under pressure. But I'm going to be careful with that because I want to say in our adult years, with some years and some time and some experiences and, even in relation to work, it's like part of a skill you have to have, right, to maintain a job is to have that critical thinking aspect, that working under pressure aspect. But we're not even there yet. We're talking about when we were young, right? So for some people, right, when they are backed into a corner and they feel unsafe, right, the mind tends to sometimes freeze, right? And you can't think clearly when this happens, so you are unable to make the right decision, or maybe you didn't know what the right decision was because in your home environment, no one sat you down and talked to you appropriately about being safe outside the home or how to protect yourself against others. And I'm going to tell you, I've had a lot of grown male friends, right, tell me that when they were little boys, right, they were in relationships with their female teachers. So you had grown female teachers in school. I'm laughing, but there's nothing funny about it. It sounds sick if you ask me. And we see this in the news or social media all the time. Teachers messing with them little boys before them little boys are even developed or have the capability to make a decision about who they want to be with, right? And that's why I say little boys get touched too. Y'all better watch them little boys. Moving on. Now that children, unless taught to, right, do not have the capacity mentally to know about harmful things unless these things were taught to them by someone in their immediate home, in their first relationships. People who actually loved them, cared about them, and has their best interests, right? I say these things to you because while trying to communicate and address my experiences that caused me harm. Okay, I jumped ahead, so I gotta slow down. We're gonna get back to what those last few sentences, okay? I don't know about anybody else, right? But when my daughter got a certain age, right? I'm talking 2, 3, 4. When I would bathe her, right, I would teach her about her body. This is this, and no one is to touch it. And if somebody touches you, you need to tell somebody. You need to tell a teacher. You need to tell your mom. You need to tell somebody. Go to the school nurse. I do that with my grandson. When I have my grandson here, he is 7. And yes, we have those conversations. And like I said before, we don't want to frighten our children or put them in a state where now they're too afraid to go out into the world, right? But we want to send them out there prepared. Because I'm going to tell you something, right? Children don't have the capacity mentally to just think of stuff like that, right? And if we don't teach them, right, somebody else is going to. And it may not be what you want them to know. Again, be careful who you have in your circle around your babies, both little boys and little girls. Because you don't know what them people are teaching your children, right? And the thing is, right, you think it's traumatic for women when we grow up and realize that we lost our innocence by someone we really didn't want to lose our innocence by, right? We know how difficult it is for women to figure that stuff out after a little girl has been touched. We don't know how long that activity could have been going on for that little girl. That little girl may be confused about a lot of things, have a lot of misinformation about love, boundaries, how she feels about herself. We all know how tough it is for girls, right? For women, right? Imagine how it is for a little boy. Because I'm going to tell you this. When these adult women touch our little boys, right? And those little boys grow up, right? They have a different perspective about relationships with women. So just like we teach our little girls, we got to teach our babies, our little boys too. When you're giving your little 4, 5, 6-year-old a bath, you need to be having conversations with them about their body parts and who's to touch it and who's not to touch it, right? And what to do if somebody does touch it. We need to be having them conversations with them. I say these things to you because while trying to communicate and address my experiences that caused me harm to the adults who were supposed to protect me, teach me, and love me, made me believe it was my fault for not speaking up, for not saying no, and for allowing these things to happen to me. So if your children come to you, right, and they're trying to communicate something with you, right, I hope that you are in a state of mind that is healthy enough, right? It's difficult. It's a difficult conversation to have with little ones, right? You got to be strong enough to sit there and listen to what them babies is telling you. Without placing blame, without them thinking, without making them believe it's their fault, right? Because I'm going to tell you what that did to me when the adults made me feel like, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. You guys know I'm just weird like that, right? So what it did to me when the adults made me feel like it was my fault or that I was responsible or whatever, right? For years, for years, that stuff paralyzed me and caused me to feel shame, guilt, embarrassment, which then caused me to stay quiet. For years, I suffered in silence. That silence caused me, because we're talking about cause and effect, right? That silence caused me to act out in other ways that caused more harm to myself. Caused more harm. I'm looking out my windows. I have my curtains open and my blinds, and I can see it getting dark outside, which means because I have my light on, people can see inside my house. I'm just, you guys, I live in a good neighborhood, right? And there's really nobody that's going to be coming by my house. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. Whatever. We're going to move on. Don't judge me. Do you know that not one adult, right? Of course, I come from a single parent home where it was just my mom, right? No one ever asked me when I came home from school, how was my day? Do you know what happened? Because I felt so unsafe at school, right? Eventually, I quit going. I told you guys, it's just this is life. This is real life stuff. But sometimes, because I am intelligent, right? When I hear or think about insane things, right? It makes me laugh. I don't know why. Maybe because I know it's not normal. And I guess, right, if we don't laugh about it, we'll cry, right? I've cried all I'm gonna cry, guys. I'm done crying. I'm done crying. Anyway, yeah, eventually I quit going to school. By doing that, I ran into more trouble by not being at school during school hours. My thinking was that I felt that at least the new trouble I would encounter was by my own submission, right? I felt more in control over who, what, and when, right? Little did I know I was not. It was all an illusion that I allowed myself to believe, right? I felt like I would rather give myself away freely than allow it to be taken. That was my mentality. And I know this sounds crazy, right? But I lived in a crazy world that shaped my way of thinking, how I seen myself, how I felt about myself, and how I seen the world around me. Do you know what happens after going through a period like that? Eventually you check out. Yeah, you check out, right? From the moment you check out, right? You are just not aware of anything anymore. You are not in touch with the world around you. You are not in touch with the things that are taking place around you. You are not in touch with your actions or your responses to these things. You're alive, but you just don't exist. You go in autopilot. So that is why the assignment, that is why it may seem extensive. We need to be in touch with some stuff, right? Because we got to save them babies. The world is full of people that bring harm and injury to babies. Setting them babies up, right? To go through years of pain and suffering, right? I know. I was one of them babies. That's why I do what I do. My mission is to save as many of them babies as I can by educating the people around them. The ones, those first relationships, mom, dad, those first relationships, right? And I can tell you, right, even with a mental health disease that caused things to be difficult for me and my daughter at times, I didn't sleep on her. I never held the truth from her. I told her everything. I was overly protective. There was a lot of things she was not allowed to do. I didn't have a whole bunch of freaking people in my house around her. And I even gave her some information on how to protect herself from me. From me. Her mother. Not that I was harming her, but she knew that if at any time you did not feel safe from your own mother, you go tell somebody, tell a teacher, tell a guidance counselor, tell a friend. I don't care who you tell. Tell somebody. My daughter will tell you. And I'm going to tell you how that childhood, right, that I had, right, changed my perspective on things, right? And it's not, I can't really say it's a bad thing. It may be a good thing, right? After I had my daughter, I never wanted to have any more children. I didn't want any more children. I thought if I could just make it with that one, right? If I could just raise that one. I didn't want to be responsible for anybody else's life. And it may just be me. It might be just my perspective. It could be my mental health aspect. And I like I said, I studied that disease, right? Mother's mother, My mother claimed her mother died in a mental institution, never to see or hear from her again. She was taken from her mother at 7. My relationship with my mom, watching something that I didn't know what it was until I was probably in my 40s. Yeah. Even years after she stopped using drugs, there were still some things there. And it was only when I discovered that I had a mental health disease and I started identifying, acknowledging, addressing, talking to my doctor, going through treatment, being on meds, and it took years after that before one day that light bulb went off. And I remember my mother and how she was with her children. I also watched my sister from the time she was born through her whole life, how her mental health disease, cause and effect, affected her life, right? My sister had 4 babies that also had to go through some stuff because of my sister's mental health disease. I knew I had a mental health disease. After I had my first daughter, in my mid-20s, I started having signs and symptoms that, what's the word I want to use? Brought me to my knees. Okay? And from that moment, I knew that I would never have any more children. Because as I stated, some mental health diseases run in the family. If you have a blood family member, such as a mother or a sibling, who has a mental health disease, bipolar to be the first one at the top of the list, chances are you may have a mental health disease. And this is what I mean about education being tied to mental health awareness and mental health wellness. If you don't know about that disease, if you don't know the statistics, the research, the studies, I went deep. Would I have liked to have had more children? Probably. I don't know about that. I mean, it's done now. I'm in my 50s, so why go there? Anyway, guys. So, I just want to give you guys an illustration of why I have you doing the assignment that I have you doing, and why I have you doing it the way I have you doing it, okay? I had to give you that information and make that connection with you, right? So that you know how important it is, right? And if you think, oh, you're all set because your babies, they grew up, they're adults now, right? What about them grandbabies that's coming? Because they're coming. Being a mom does not stop when your children become adults. My daughter's my only daughter. She only has one child. Do you know where she goes when she needs help with that child? And just like I taught her, I'm going to teach him. We want our children to have the tools necessary, right? To have the best outcome. Does it guarantee that they're ever going to not experience some stuff? No, but they'll know what to do. They'll know how to respond. They'll know that they have the right to speak up and say no. Right? Maybe you have nieces. Maybe you have nephews. Sometimes, right? I know that my daughter's a very smart girl, and I know that she is having these conversations with my grandson, right? But I need to make sure. When he comes to grandma, we talk. Me and my grandbaby. We talk. Again, trying to save them babies. To give them a better start. A better chance. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I think you guys know what I mean, though. So today is Thursday, October 5th, and I had that particular skit wrote out specifically for today, Thursday, October 5th. I had that skit planned out as particularly for today to check in with you guys, to make sure that you're on the right path with your assignment, to make sure you're being as, what's the word I want to say? You're being as not consistent, thorough. That you're being as thorough as you possibly can, right? Because sometimes in writing stuff out, right, it might be some stuff that you're not even aware of, right? But as you're writing, right, this is what I found with my book, right? Sometimes writing about one memory sparked another memory. So there may be some stuff that you're not even conscious of yet. And again, I tell you guys this to help you get through your experiences of writing about those first relationships, because if you do get triggered, if you do run into some stuff, right? I want to make sure that you're also, I gave you guys another assignment, the tools that come with your higher power, right? The Quran, the Holy Bible. You want to build, you don't want to just say you know your higher power or say that you have a relationship with your higher power, but you have not yet read the tools that comes with your higher power, that teaches you, guides you, comforts you. We look to that for guidance, right? If you have not read the tools, right, that comes with that higher power, right, you don't really know your higher power. You really don't. And the reason why that is so important is because, like I said, when we are writing about our first experiences in life, we might get bumped into some feelings. We might get triggered on some stuff, right? If that happens, please call a friend. Just to vent it out. Just to get through the feelings. Just to get through the emotions. If you don't have a friend, right? You better know your higher power. You better know for sure. Okay? Because we don't want anybody to get injured while doing this work. That's what worked for me, guys. So I did have a plan for Wednesday that we did not go over. I don't know why we didn't go over it, but so yesterday, Wednesday, October 4th session, You guys, I am going to definitely close my curtains because it is really dark outside. Like I said, I live in a decent neighborhood, um, but I do live alone. And I'm not scared of no one coming up in my house. So if you guys, I don't know, I'm not talking about my community of people, but we are on the internet. Other people may be within earshot of the session. Um, I don't want those people to get it twisted, right? I do know how to defend myself very well. I have two grown brothers, right? I'm not talking to my members in my community, right? Again, social media. We have to be aware of some stuff, right? I wish a person would try to come up in my house. And I live in a community where my neighbors will hear. They will hear. Let me close these curtains real quick, guys. I'm right here, I'm right here, I'm right here, I'm right here. Just closing my blinds, closing my blinds, closing my curtains. Closing my curtains. I'm here, guys. See, I feel comfortable now. No peeping Toms. You guys, I don't know if you guys heard about that situation in Johnston, right? I used to work in Johnston. I worked right down the street from that incident that took place in Johnston. It was in the news this past year. A male neighbor was peeking through the bedroom window of his neighbor's 16-year-old daughter. He used a ladder, climbed up the ladder, and was peeking in the bedroom window of a 16-year-old girl. Her dad caught the guy, called the police on the guy. By the time the police showed up at the guy's house, he was not home. The next morning, that same guy went back to the neighbor's house, shot and killed the father, shot the 16-year-old girl, and I think he might have been living with his mother. He was probably in his 50s, and he was living with his mother, and I think his mother knew that he was about to leave that house and cause harm to some people, and I believe she tried to stop him from leaving that house. He shot and killed his mother. So when I tell you about neighbors, right, we never know. We never know. So, yes, I'm very cautious. I'm very cautious. I pay attention. I don't sleep. I mean, I sleep well, but I'm just saying, like, we just never know, right? The mental health aspect of this young man, right? Like, there had to be some aspect of some type of mental health disease, because who does that? So while I do sympathize for the family members, right, I sympathize for him as well. And I know people might get mad for me to say that. Like I said, I have a mental health issue, and thank God I never injured anyone. I know I would never do anything like that, but nobody really knows when the mind snaps. Nobody really knows. Anytime I hear anything in the news about somebody causing harm to somebody, right? Although our hearts go out to the families, especially that 16-year-old girl, she survived. She has to live with that for the rest of her life, right? She's going to go through some stuff, right? So, of course, my heart goes out to the family. But again, the perpetrator, like, what was he thinking? He could not have been in his right mind, right? He could not have been. Anyway, guys, I was just giving you guys an example of that because, like I said, I am a female. I do live alone, right? But I have protections in place. Yeah. Anyway, so what I had planned for you guys yesterday that for whatever reason we didn't get to, right? Is how people respond to people with mental health diseases. And I know that we've gone over this a few times in the past. But we're going to go over it again. I'm just going to review real quick. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to tell you my experiences, right? With going through treatment for my street drug addiction. I'm going to tell you guys, right? Living in this world is not easy. It is not easy. I don't care how educated you are. I don't care about how much you think you know. I don't care about how tough you think you are. I'm just giving you guys a minute to let that sink in, right? Sometimes stuff happens that are beyond our control, right? So while I was in my program trying to address. Now I'm going to tell you guys, right? As I told you, my clean date is March 11th, 2007. I moved here to Rhode Island in was it like I think it was 2010. I moved here to Rhode Island in 2010. I lived with a young man I was in a relationship with. We was living together in an apartment. He died of cancer in 2009. I kind of had a hard time going through that process by myself out in Springfield, Mass. So I made the decision to come to where my family was, which is mom and my two brothers, who were here in Rhode Island already. So I came here to Rhode Island in 2010 to get that family support to help get me through that grieving period of time, right? So when I came here to Rhode Island, I had a few years clean. I had done the step work already, but anytime you are a recovering addict and you are in treatment, because going to that program is part of your treatment, you want to be able to go long periods of time without no interruption in your recovery. You do not want to have to keep changing your clean date and starting over. And how do we do that? We have to maintain our recovery. We will never get cured. It doesn't go away. If you're not in treatment, it's just like your mental health disease, okay? Just because you don't acknowledge it doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean it's not going to affect your life. Cause and effect, right? Same thing with my other program when addressing my disease of addiction. So like I said, I came here with a few years clean, but anytime I move to another state, right? The first thing I do is find out where that program is. Yeah. I want to know where my people are. I want to get to know the people in that community and start building my network. So that's what I do. I came here to Rhode Island. I want to say the first or second night I was here, I had my brother. I looked it up online, and I told my brother, you need to drop me off. When I tell you I'm serious about maintaining my mental health wellness by any means necessary. I've seen the dangers of not addressing my mental health disease. I've seen it. It's pretty damn scary. So yeah, I take my mental health disease very seriously, okay? I also, like I said, I am the oldest. I have 2 siblings underneath me. I have my mom, I have my dad, my adult daughter, my grandson. I have a lot riding on me to which I need to be mentally well for. So anyway, while in my program, I'm telling you guys, right, for people who have the addiction to street drug aspect, right, please do not let me and what I say deter you from getting the help you need. As I stated before, it's not the people, it's the program itself, and the program works if you apply it. If you are serious about getting better, right, you're going to do what it takes, okay? Yes, because of the people, right, there's going to be some good experiences and there's going to be some bad experiences. And it does not have to be any bad experiences if you focus on what you went there for, okay? It doesn't have to be any bad experiences. Like I said, I have 18 years clean. That was the point. All that other stuff didn't matter. Even though I no longer attend my program, I have a lot of people's numbers from that program, women in my network who I call, who I hang out with. Yeah, it is that serious. And I do have some male friends that I've built relationships with in my program. I don't mess with them in that way. But yes, I have male friends too. Okay, very important. You cannot just go to the program and sit there with your mouth shut. You need to speak up, open your mouth, share, introduce yourself, get phone numbers of the women. Look for the ones with some clean time. This is going to help your journey to be a lot easier. So anyway, we got 15 minutes left. I'm going to start. We may have to end and pick up when we come back, okay? This is just my experiences that I've had while in a program trying to get better. Like I told you guys, right? We heal from the traumas of the past, right? We heal from that stuff. We did the work. We're beyond that, right? But there's some more traumas that's going to take place. Some fresh stuff, some new stuff, right? Because it doesn't matter how much information we have. It doesn't matter how careful we are. Sometimes stuff happens beyond our control, right? And information always makes it better. I am here to guide. I am here to teach. If I don't open my mouth, if I don't be open and honest to you guys, I wouldn't be a good teacher, right? My hairs are curly, guys. I'm back to my curls because it got hot again. So anyway, while in recovery, there was a woman who knew me from attending daily meetings in that program. She's seen me. She didn't know me, right? She's seen me around meetings. She's seen me around events, like social events surrounding my program. I did not know this woman personally. She did not know me personally. She was not in my circle or my network of close friends, and I was not in hers. I had never been to her house. She has never been to my house. Um, she did not know my family. I did not know her family. Outside of her husband, she's married in the program. I told you guys, some people have successful marriages in those programs. It is not my case, but there are people who have coupled up in there and have successful marriages, okay? So I can't really say I knew her husband. Again, I don't hang around these people. They see me around. We probably say hi, passing each other, what have you. I don't talk to them, right? So the people who were in my close circle, right? We hung out together outside of the program. We attended each other's events, each other's functions that some people threw that was personal and not tied to the program, okay? We hung out with each other. We knew each other's family members. This particular woman and her husband, I have never seen at any of my social circles. You know, the people in my social circle, like, I've never seen them attend any of our events at any one of our houses. Like, I did not know this woman, okay? So one day, there was a convention, right? And for those who don't know what a convention is, there was a convention in my hometown of Boston, Mass, right? And a convention is a ridiculously large affair at a hotel, well, where millions of people battling the disease of addiction would gather from all over the world, right? To enjoy the many festivities that would happen at that convention, such as speakers, vendors selling merchandise. There is a ball where if you choose to attend the ball, you purchase your tickets, and members would dress up in their finest clothes. They would enjoy entertainment such as fashion shows, comedians, singers, dancers, followed by an exclusive dinner. Because it was such a large event and members traveled from all over the world to attend this event, right? The event would last the whole weekend. So people would rent hotels, rooms in that hotel, so they didn't have to go back to, they could stay the whole weekend to attend the event. They had scheduled dances scheduled. I think it was like Saturday night. So you have like Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday there was just like speakers. There was like a countdown for clean time. It was like the closing, and people would go home by like 12, right? So Saturday they always had a dance scheduled on Saturday evening for everybody to attend, okay? Because it is my hometown, right? I decided I'm going to pick my dad up, who also is in recovery and has way more years clean than I do, right? But I'm going to pick my dad up, and we're going to go to this convention, and Dad's going to see some of all his old buddies, right? And I'm going to be hanging out with my friends, and then me and my dad will interact with each other. My dad had two girls, me and my sister. He was the first one to start attending the program. My sister was introduced to the program unfortunately, she didn't really quite get it. She struggled with it. Um, so my dad is very proud to have at least one of his daughters going through the program, addressing her disease of addiction and getting better. Okay, my dad has always been proud of me. Like I said, even through my mental health diseases, my mental health disease experiences, even through my experiences when I struggled with the disease of addiction, I always went to school, I always worked, I always took care of my parents, my siblings. Like, dad and mom have always been proud of me and my achievements, okay? So yeah, dad was very proud to have me with him at that convention. As my dad and I were standing there talking to each other, right? Tell me why this woman approached us and started talking, right? She started talking about the relationships that I had been in over the years and how I seemed to switch partners often, right? My father and I stood there quietly, right? Listening to this woman and not saying a word. When the woman finished talking, she walked away, and my father and I continued our conversation, not even acknowledging what had just happened, right? This is how other people can cause you harm. Like, maybe they don't know better. Maybe they don't know boundaries. You know, I don't know what some people's problem is, okay? So me and my dad just stood there, like, neither one of us acknowledged it. We just continued, conversing with each other, right? But I'm going to tell you, right? When it happened, right? Inside, I was falling apart in silence, trying not to show my dad how badly this affected me. I fell apart. As the night continued, right? Me and my dad were still walking around the hotel, enjoying the moment, enjoying the festivities. While walking around the hotel, I walk into the woman's husband, right? I pulled him to the side and was like, "Can I have a word with you?" Right? Because I was so caught off guard by the woman's actions and because of my father's presence, I did not address the woman about the situation directly at the time. I was so humiliated, so in shock. I didn't respond. So I just assumed that maybe I could have a civilized conversation with the woman's husband in the hopes that he could have a conversation with his wife regarding her actions and behaviors. But that was not the case. As I started talking to this young man, before I could even finish my sentence, he said to me, "That is between you and my wife and has nothing to do with me." And then he just walked away, leaving me standing there alone. Yes! And I get that, when you have a married couple, right? A husband and a wife, right? They have their life together and they have their friends that they have in common, right? But they also have separate lives and then they have their own friends, right? And I get that sometimes, like, the spouse don't want to get involved with the other spouse's business, right? But this is a program, right? We're all here for the same reason. We're all here because we're sick and we're trying to get better, right? And we're trying to help each other and support each other and teach one another and love one another and protect one another. And yes, I do have a group of friends that all that stuff applies to, right? But it's not everybody. It's not everybody, right? I look towards my dad and try to hide my emotions tied to this interaction from him. Again, I was mortified. I sucked it all down, walked to my father, and asked him if we could go to one of the restaurants to go get some dinner. I was so happy he agreed. Inside myself, I was thinking, I just wanted to get out of here. I just wanted to get out of there. Now again, maybe this woman didn't know I was with my dad. Like, what, did she just assume that was just another one of my random dates or male friends? Like, she didn't even ask. She didn't even ask. I kind of wonder what she got out of that action. Was she trying to enlighten me? Now, if she was trying to pull me up and enlighten me on something, I'm open to feedback, right? But it was how she did it and when she did it. You could have pulled me to the side to say all that. You didn't have to say all that in front of the gentleman I was with. You didn't even know the person I was with, right? Or was she intentionally trying to make me look bad in front of this person, right? We're on that mark, right? We're going to end this, right? Either way, because again, I don't know this woman, and I have never done or said anything that I'm aware of to this woman that could have caused her harm. I never saw the woman and her husband again. We're going to end there. I'll finish telling you guys the story tomorrow. I know you guys are going to probably be on edge, right? So I never saw this woman and this man again. So I'm going to put October 5th into October 6th. We're going to end there, guys, because we're at that mark. I hope that you guys got something out of today's session. I hope I am doing justice in my teaching about mental health awareness, mental health wellness tied to education. Again, I am no doctor, physician, counselor, therapist, or psychiatry. I don't have any licenses in regards to that aspect. Again, I am a mental health patient. I've been diagnosed with depression tied to anxiety and panic attack. I've had this disease my whole life. I have been in treatment and on medication for probably like 20, 30 years now. I have the educational background as far as studying. I have an associate's degree for science, and my focus was medical science, okay? I've studied anatomy, physiology, behavioral health. Like, I've done a lot of work in that area, right? And so this is just me advocating for mental health awareness, mental health wellness tied to education by sharing my journey with you and giving you the information that I have accumulated over my many years. Not only dealing with my own mental health disease, but also having to walk beside my mom, my sister, since a little girl, watching her struggles and her journey with her mental health disease, which she was diagnosed with bipolar. I grew up in a community around a bunch of people with mental health diseases, and I pay attention. So not only do I have my own experiences and have the educational background behind it, um, I just don't want any more babies to have to suffer. And this is why I do what I do. Okay. Yes, we do need to get to those providers to address any concerns or issues you may be having. But if you have questions regarding the disease aspect, cause and effect, um, treatment, medication, I'm your girl. Although the doctors can explain some stuff to you guys, I realize that sometimes the way the doctors talk, right? They use that medical language that some people don't understand, right? So I'm here to give it to you in a way that you can understand it, you can receive it, and you know what you're doing, okay? I hope you guys have a great night. If you stop by, please hit subscribe, share, share, share. Let's get the word out there. Join me in saving the next generation of these babies that's about to grow up in this society, right? Love you guys. Bye.